The Rock Cycle by Katura Rico, covering standard H2E2. Explain how Earth's atmosphere, geosphere, and hydrosphere change over time and at varying rates. Explain techniques used to elucidate the history of events on Earth. The Earth is constantly going through ongoing cycles to help stabilize life on Earth. One example of Earth's cycles is the rock cycle. The rock cycle concept was brought about by a guy named James Hutton, who became the 18th century founder of modern geology. His reasoning was that rocks are continually changing from one type to another and back again. So the elements that make up rocks are never created or destroyed. Instead, they are constantly being recycled. This cycle is a process when three classifications of rock, igneous, sedimentary, and metamorphic, are made up or influenced by cooling, melting, heat and pressure, weathering and erosion, uplifting, and compaction and cementation. So what happens to the rocks when they undergo these influences? When a rock goes through the process of cooling, usually it is at the stage of magma, a hot liquid made of melted minerals that comes from a volcano. When the magma cools, it hardens and transforms into a solid rock. Melting is when rocks are transformed back into the liquid state of magma. Heat and pressure. This is when the rock is heated up while the force per unit of area exerted upon something else, such as on a surface. Weathering and erosion. When natural weather occurrences loosen sediment and move it from one place to another on Earth's surface. Agents of erosion include water, ice, wind, and gravity. Uplifting occurs when forces act to pull sections of the Earth's crust apart. At other times, they are forced together. This results in rocks underground to be forced above surface. And this is very important because with weathering and erosion, it breaks down surfaces. So without uplifting, our planet would be flat. Compaction and cementation. Compaction occurs when sedimentary grains are pushed together that eventually forms sediment layering. Cementation is a process by which clastic sediment is lithified by precipitation of mineral cement among the grains of the sediment. By knowing what these influences do, it is better to understand how the rock cycle moves and that each element intertwines with one another. In each classification of rock, there can be even more depth than details. For example, an igneous rock can be classified into two different types, depending on what type of magma it's made up from. One type is called mafic. Mafic rocks are made up with more heavier elements in the magma they were formed by, such as olivine, pyroxene, amphibole, biotite mica, and the plagioclase feldspars. Because of the high iron and magnesium, and it usually creates this rock to be dark in color and have relatively high specific gravities. One example of this type of rock is basalt. Basalt makes up the ocean floor, varying in different dark colors like dark gray, brown, black, and green. The other type of igneous rock is felsic. This type contains high levels of silica and also other lighter minerals like potassium, oxygen, and aluminum, which gives it its lighter looking color. Granodiorite is an example of felsic igneous rock. It contains about 70% silica. Those classifications were more in depth. The obvious, more well-known differentiation is whether the igneous rock is intrusive or extrusive. Extrusive rocks cool fast on the surface. Obsidian is an example. It is very black, sleek, and smooth. Intrusive rocks cool slower within the earth. Granite is an example of an intrusive rock. It has more of a rougher texture. Besides just getting more specific about igneous rock types, sedimentary rocks can also be classified into more depth. These rocks are made up of sediments which are materials such as lime, gravel, sand, and mud. The three categories sedimentary rocks can fall into are classic, chemical, and organic. Chemical is when it precipitates from a solution. This can be classified into being either organic or inorganic. Limestone is an example of being an inorganic sedimentary rock. Coal can be an example of an organic type. Plastic rocks are formed when fragments of rock, clay, quartz, or other sizes of grain become composed. An example of a classic rock is sandstone. Organic. Organic rocks form from accumulation of plants and animal debris. Oil shale is an example of an organic rock. Metamorphic rocks are made in the most unique ways. These rocks are like the results of a makeover. Old rocks are transformed into something totally different. Metamorphic rocks can be classified into two different distinct features: foliated and non-foliated. Foliated are rocks that appear as if they have bands or layering around them, caused from direct pressure through its cycle. Gneiss is one example. See the layers? Non-foliated is when pressure wasn't applied like that, so they don't have bands. Marble is a perfect, beautiful example of this. What are some benefits from the rock cycle? One example, directed to science, is relative dating. Because of natural layering, it is an easy way of automatically knowing that the further the layer is from Earth's surface, the older an object is. The rock cycle is constantly moving, allowing plate tectonics to shift. By having the uplifting process involved, it allows mountains to form or space for new water sources. Yes, through all the little influences and examples of rock types, we can see how precise and important the rock cycle is for us.